Shed blown over.
Dude, that is so gnarly. What do you guys?
All hands on heart.
I was sent here by a company, Bouge RV. Solar equipment, battery in the solar panel, cook with it. You can charge your phone, your laptop. Bouge RV, they make those kind of products, and they sent me over here to help. They also sent a bunch of power stations, 4 refrigerators, and 4 solar panels. Okay. You interview him, because I gotta drive.
Can you talk about what happened when you first realized that the tornado was going to be bigger than y'all thought?
I was in Starkville at Mississippi State University while my mom and my sister were at home in Amory. Sitting in my dorm, watching the news, watching the radar, I saw that it hit Rolling Fork. It was kind of looking like it was going to hit Starkville, so I was watching that just to make sure that we were good, and I saw that we were good, winding down, and then I realized that Amory was in the path, which, I realized my mom and sister. I started looking into it. Right as I pulled up my local news station, I saw a big blue ring, which meant, tornado right about to hit Amory, and our local meteorologist said, "Dear Jesus, please help them." Yeah. Panicked, and I called my mom, I called my sister. They wouldn't answer. Turns out that they were on the phone with my dad during that time. For those few minutes, I didn't know if they were okay or not. Our house was about a half mile or so from the worst of it, and we were fine. We had some shingle damage, some little stuff like that. But for those few minutes, I didn't know. It's tough seeing the town that you grew up in. I've grown up here since I was like a year old. We moved here. The baseball field that I grew up on is gone. The school that I went to is heavily damaged. A lot of it's not going to come back. Football field that I play on is gone. A bunch of my friends' houses are gone. It's tough seeing that, but it's really good to know that there's people that see the effort that's been put into this, just from all over. I mean, I know y'all have said you're from Vermont, California, so it's just really good to see people from all over come and help. Will McComb. Amory is in Monroe County, and I think there's 5 towns in Monroe County. I was thinking in my head earlier, and 3 out of the 5 towns in the past 11 years, or 12, the past 12 years have been hit by a tornado. Smithville, which is about...
Oh, yeah.
Smithville,
2011,
yeah.
That one was
Smithville
bad.
was about 10 miles from here, and during 2011, a record number of EF5 tornadoes that came up in Smithville was decimated. Like, you drove through Smithville, and it was just foundations.
Did it ever come back?
Yeah, it's come back, but not like it was before.
You say foundations, like it was flat.
Like it was flat. The houses were gone. Not like damaged, like houses were gone. My dad is a doctor here in Amory.
How far away from that?
It's like probably 15 minutes away from Amory. In 2019 or 2020, I can't remember, Hamilton, Mississippi, which is about 30 minutes from Amory, was hit pretty hard as well. This area has had its fair share of tornadoes. The Smithville tornado is just a story. My dad is a doctor here in Amory. During the Smithville tornado, he went there to help, and they ran out of stretchers, so they had to take the doors off of hinges and haul people out on doors in the backs of trucks to the hospital. This area has just had its fair share.
Your friends that lost their houses, are they going to rebuild, or do you think they're going to move away?
As far as I know, I mean, all of my friends that lost their houses, they have deep roots in Amory. And so I imagine they'll stay. There may be a few that move, but for the most part, I think they all have plans of staying. Small towns in Mississippi, it's kind of one of those things. You have family that lives here, you have family that lives close by, and you kind of have a love for that, the community. So I think they'll stay, but there may be some exceptions to that.
Did you ever hear about Paradise, California? With all hands there. There was a big wildfire that went through, and they lost most of the town. 88 people died. The disaster had happened about 4 years ago. There's still so much that hasn't been rebuilt. Most of the community will never recover. Always wonder when I go to these towns now, how many people are going to stay, especially in small towns, when they keep getting hit by tornadoes.
Getting hit by tornadoes is just really bad luck, because from people I've talked to, nobody in recent memory can remember a stretch that's been as bad as this in terms of tornadoes. Maybe it's climate change, maybe it's whatever. I think people will stay, at least here. If your whole town gets wiped out by wildfire, that may be a little different, but there's a good portion of Amory that's untouched, so I think people will stay.
Do you think people will take different measures to protect against tornadoes in terms of having the trees so close to their houses? It seems like a lot of the damage came from trees falling over.
After the 2011 Smithville tornado, there were more storm shelters built in the next few years. There was a few storm shelters before then, but now almost every large house has a storm shelter. So I think, that will probably happen. There will be more storm shelters. My parents have already talked about removing some trees that are close to our house. So, I think you're definitely right.
Do you guys have a storm shelter?
We do not, but I think that may be in the works after this.
Okay.
So,
I'm from Vermont, so
right.
what exactly happens? Like
during, when you hear about, so in Mississippi, especially March, April, you're going to have weather that can produce a tornado, about every 2 weeks or more, more in these past few weeks. So you'll hear, severe weather Thursday, there may be some possibilities for some tornadoes. And so you just kind of get numb to it. Thursday rolls around and you're like, okay, might be some bad weather today. And you just kind of judge it throughout the day. And if it really does get bad, if people are in school, they'll let out, that type of thing. At that point, you just start watching the news. And even when you get to the point where you're watching the news, you're still like, there's still probably nothing going to happen, because the majority of the time, nothing does happen. Every once in a while, we call it here in this part of Mississippi, our local weatherman is Matt Lawbone from Tupelo. We say when Matt Lawbone puts his suspenders on, that's when it's bad, because he always wears suspenders when there's tornado weather. At that point, you're in your house probably, or you're somewhere safe, and you're watching the weather, and sirens are probably going off, or like on your phone, get in your safe space, and you'll get in your safe space. If I'm home, I probably get in my safe space 4 or 5 times every tornado season, and you don't think anything about it, but every once in a while something does happen. So that's kind of the process.
What's your safe space?
If you don't have a storm shelter, it would be the most interior part of your house. So like we have a closet that's almost directly in the middle of our house, surrounded by walls, no windows or anything like that. So that would be the last place that was touched. Okay. It would be the lowest, most interior part of your house if you don't have a storm shelter.
Did you lose power?
Oh yes, we did. We lost power to our whole house for 4 days, I think, and so we had a generator run to our inside refrigerator, but our outside, we have a outside freezer that we store like meat and things like that, and we had to throw that out because it couldn't power everything we needed it to.
There was a woman who was at the distribution center the other day. She had lost over $400 worth of food. Like, she had just spent her entire paycheck on food to support her and her family, and they lost everything of it. And then she was like here, and she was like, I just need food to get to my next check.
That's the reality with this.
Do you guys have a disaster kit?
We do not, but that's probably, a smart thing. With hurricanes, that type of stuff, you have that because you have time to evacuate. With tornadoes, it happens just like that. So you don't, if you evacuated every time there was a chance for a tornado, you would be leaving the town every week. You can prepare for it a lot less than you can with like hurricanes, stuff like that.
How did this experience with the tornado, how will it change how you react to weather warnings now that you've been extremely close to an area that's been directly hit?
Well, I mean, I know like just the other night we had more severe weather that it didn't turn anything, but I was locked onto my phone watching the weather, and usually I'm not like that. So I think at least for the next couple of years, it's going to make me way more wary of severe weather.
How do your mom and sister feel about the whole thing?
My little sister, she's terrified of weather, like in general. So they were in this. It was actually our safe space is, there's a closet nearby and there's a bathroom that's connected to the closet. They were in the bathtub together with a mattress over the top of them. And she does that every time there's a tornado warning. So I think this will just make her probably more scared than she already is. But
Oh man.
yeah, so yeah, it's like really. But.
Cool.
It's a great interview. Thanks.
I don't know. Thank you.
Is this a video?